Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girija. I'm Girija Patel, your host for Law Chat, and I am so excited for you to join us today. I have some amazing guests on Law Chat, and they're here to share their experiences and entrepreneurial journey with us, and through their storytelling, mentorship with us, because that is the whole point. We are all entrepreneurs and we're all on a journey, and learning from one another is the best way for us to move forward in our journey as well. And I have amazing guests who are so willing and ready to share their stories with us, their challenges and their victories and their achievements, and also their mindset. I just can't wait to share that with you, and I also just can't wait to have that conversation with them. It's such a privilege to have each and every one of them here with us today, and also it's such a privilege to have you listening in and tuning in. So let's dive in to Law Chat with Girija.
Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girija. Gosh, I have an amazing guest today, and all of her credentials and experience precede her. And so I'm just going to kind of touch on a couple things that she has accomplished in her life, and then I'm going to let her talk to us and share with us her journey. Dr. Dubois, or Liz Dubois, Dr. Liz, she has an extensive background in sociological research related to divorce and family conflict, and I mean a lot, not just a little bit, but a lot. And she also, which is so interesting, is that she was a fellow at the Faculty of Sociology at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow, Russia. And we were just talking about that also just a second ago before I started this recording. And she has a book as well. And I don't know, has it been already released? Has it been published? Is it out in the world?
It's coming out this summer because it was supposed to come out in the fall, and then George Floyd was killed, and it was not a total rewrite, but that incident pushed me to be braver in what I was willing to say publicly and what I had been holding myself back. So I'm actually meeting tonight with the gentleman that's writing the foreword. He's a academic. He's a classically trained pianist, African American. Wow. He's at Georgetown, and we had a conversation that went until about 1 a.m, sitting in the middle of my living room on my yacht. He also is a yachter. And we just, like, over many tears and hugs and yelling, I was like, we're going to pull this apart a little bit. He's writing the foreword. And so we're having dinner tonight to go through all of his suggested revisions. And then, so it'll be in Politics and Prose soon. I
love that. Well, the name of the book is Dear White Parents, Uncomfortable Reflections on Parenting and Privilege. And I'm excited to read it once it comes out as well. And thank you so much for being here today. I am really looking forward to learning about your experiences and all that you have to share with us today. So welcome to Law Chat.
Thank you for having me. I'm really touched and excited.
Yes. I mean, I loved how when I asked you, like, how are you doing today? And you just said, I'm very happy. I don't know. Not many people say that these days. So it was so refreshing to hear that, even because truly, I think it's very hard for people to say that. I'm very happy. I think that comes from a place of gratitude and a place of feeling immense blessings, even if it's in the midst of a lot of trial and tribulation. But tell me, how did you start your journey? Where did it all begin? You know, where did you start the study of
Can you narrow this a little bit?
Where did you start the study of divorce, and how did you get into that niche? Let's talk about that.
Okay. So I have been, from a very young age, I'm talking like junior high, obsessed with, like, able to see power, kind of like prescription lenses of, like, I can walk into a situation and be like, this is the hierarchy. This is how things work. And, like, I remember I was a huge nerd. I continue to be a huge nerd. But I remember in, like, 7th grade, socially diagramming, like, out the social hierarchy of our, like, 7th grade miss. I was like, well, these are the skaters and these are the popular people. And this is kind of like the downward trend where the nerds and the losers are. I'm somewhere around here, right? And, like...
I don't think so, but okay.
I mean, like, so I grew up in a very conservative small town in Ohio. The 3 people that made it out of my graduating class that got doctorates or are physicians all live in DC. Like everyone just, all of the smart people debunked. That's not quite true. I'm still friends with a lot of people from home, but the culture that I grew up in, it was not cool to be smart in any way, shape, or form. It certainly was not cool to be almost 6 feet tall, chubby, braces, frizzy hair. Like I didn't have a way to feel good about who I was other than by being smart and being articulate. And so that was kind of, I was not the pretty friend. I was like the funny, smart one. And so when I went into college, I knew I was going to either be a lawyer or a doctor. And it was not a, like, my mother told me I had to. It was just like, that's what I'm going to do. My sister actually told a story at my dissertation, like, celebration dinner, or apparently we grew up next to a creek. We would be playing like make mud pies in the creek. We had a restaurant, Madriatico's, the best mud pies. And apparently people would say, like, Miss Daggy, that was my name growing up, my maiden name. They would say, "Excuse me, Miss Daggy." And apparently I would, like, drop a line and be like, "It's doctor."
Oh, I love that.
So my interest in research started very young. But for me, studying divorce was less about studying divorce and more about studying power. We writ large as a culture, right? I think feminism, feminists, people interested in power and social structure, we talk a lot about the system and, like, where patriarchy lives. But that's a hard thing to throw under a microscope, right? You can be like, well, women, we can look at the wage gap, we can look at this, we can look at sexual violence. And I was like, how do you study gender and power? How do you put it under a microscope? Because it's one thing to say there's an imbalance of power related to wages. There's an imbalance of power related to violence, right? But where does that manifest? How do you put it under a microscope and study it? And divorce is such a microcosm of looking at social power, right? Because you're dealing with economics, right? You're taking all of these arguments about, like, who's going to do the dishes because this person came home late from work and I had a long day and I was up till 2 a.m. because the baby threw up on the sheets and you needed to get a good night's sleep to go to work, but I was with the kids all day, so why aren't you doing this, right? All of these court structures take it and say, all right, here's a child support calculator. Here's an alimony calculator. Here are the statutory guidelines that put all of these, like, relationship imbalances of power, and it, like, puts it into spreadsheets, right? And it's like, this is who's right. This is who's wrong. This is who's right in these nuanced ways, right? And so it became, for me, studying divorce was really about how do we splice and dice and understand power in regards to gender relationships, right? And so for me, it was much less about, I'm interested in divorce because of legal structures and all of this. It was, I'm interested in legal structures and divorce because it is a place where we can really understand how power works, where it lives, right? And, like, I certainly lived some of this. I didn't mean to walk myself into my research, but so many of us do, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up going through my own divorce and having my life experiences, right? I had a 3-year-old at the time that I left my partnership. I had the court sort through all of the things that had been arguments behind closed doors.
Right.
There was a litigation process that provided a framework for figuring out, like, who was really right.
Right.
And, like,
but I don't know how much they speak to the emotion side of it. It boils down to money.
Coaching, yeah.
You chose to do the study before your divorce had happened, right? Or was that afterwards?
No, I had started studying divorce and domestic violence policy well before I got married. I did my master's degree research. I took a summer and lived in Indonesia. Indonesia in 2004 was pressured by the World Bank as part of a foreign aid investment. The World Bank pressured Indonesia to pass, at the time, what was the world's most progressive domestic violence legislation. This was in 2004. And where the World Bank wanted Indonesia to be and where Indonesia was culturally were very different places. And I dropped in 2012, and my research study that became my master's degree was really just like, a law changed 6 years ago. What's going on since? And so
Yeah.
I was going on the back of motorcycles with women legal aid attorneys going up into the mountains and talking with their clients, about how has your life changed since this law got passed? You're leaving an abusive marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been able to, like, has this made your life better or worse? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Very kind of basic stuff. And it was much less about what is happening related to divorce and much more about the World Bank wanted a thing to happen, but it was discordant with the culture, and who's paying the brunt of that. And what had happened was, right, like these women that were using these laws, and they're female attorneys who were helping them petition for custody using this new law. The backlash was not on the World Bank. It was not on the international community. It was not on national legislation. It was on customary, the traditional legal structure there is adopt. So these adopt leaders were traditional customary law were saying this is what happens when you educate women. They break the culture.
Oh,
right.
wow. Yeah.
And so I have always been, through the time that I've been a researcher now for 11 years, my interest in divorce has always been about how does power impact women, right? Like you have the World Bank, and then you have, Indonesia as a country, and then you have Bali as a, place within that country, and then you have Denpasar as the capital of Bali, and then you have these women in Denpasar petitioning for custody using this new law, and it's their fault, right? Not all of these other structures. So that's my interest.
That's interesting to me too. I mean, I feel like we could have a whole nother conversation just about that, because that's so fascinating to me. And also to see, where are they now? Have they implemented anything? Are they still in the same place they were prior to 2012? Like, what do you know by any chance where they are now? Or
no,
and their policies, or?
I think this is the really interesting and perhaps probably one of my biggest critiques of sociological and anthropological research in general is kind of like you drop in, I call it Roomba research. You drop in and like slurp up the data and then like leave, right? Your privilege always comes with you, right? And you don't necessarily have an obligation back to your research participants. So I did that research in 2010. I published it in 2012 and 2014. It's in it was spliced into two different arguments. I broke one public policy, one sociology, published them in two different books. And, I don't know, like I'm not in touch with my research participants. I went from studying kind of the impact of this World Bank investment in Indonesia, and then was in Moscow a year later, right, at the Higher School of Economics, looking at domestic violence laws there and kind of like what was fit in friction, what things fit and what things were in friction, looking at kind of how are things similar, how are things different, how does this reconcile with the way that the US thinks about domestic violence and divorce and public policy. Part of the reason I've pivoted out of research and into coaching is I want a more personal relationship with the people whose lives I'm impacting, right?
Right.
When I'm as a researcher, right, like I published those books, I got a ton of fellowships, I got paid to do my PhD. Those women helped me. I don't think that I actually helped them though, right?
Oh, wow. That is probably one of the biggest challenges, or one of the challenges you faced, is the fact that you couldn't really impact them the way you probably wanted to impact them.
Right. And I think that
and
there's
make a change.
Yeah, and there's perhaps a macro argument to be made, right? Like, did I help influence, like you and I are on a podcast talking about this,
right?
Like, will that influence someone's thinking? I don't know, but my work as a researcher concerned with, interested in gender and power and divorce and poverty and women's agency, this is kind of a universal story. I remember speaking on a panel to the Chemonics, which is one of the big Washington inside like Beltway bandit consulting firms that does a lot of government work, right? They're a government subcontractor. They do a lot of international development. And I was speaking on a panel, and next to me was a researcher from the World Bank that ran a lot of their gender and power research around the world, a profoundly brilliant woman, brilliant. And we were talking about power and privilege. And when you go into a developing country or third world country, or however you want to think about it, right? Which all of those terms are problematic in their own right. Right. Because she was saying, like, you have to check your privilege at the door. And I remember looking at her, right? We're two white ladies sitting on this panel, speaking to a room of mostly white people that are also going out in the world and doing good things, right? Well-intended things.
Right.
And I said, like, you can't actually check your privilege because you get to go on an airplane and leave.
Yeah.
Right. Like the women, I'm up in the mountains, and I so remember this, we were talking about the language, the different like words that are used in Balinese culture for women, and, you know, like just teaching as a second language, right? Like this is the word in Russia, apple is yabloko, right? Like we were like language 101. And this woman who was petitioning for custody using this new law, she said, you know, the word for a woman who gets divorced in our culture is widow. She socially dies. She's a widow.
Wow.
And I said, well, what do they call a man, right? Because the consequence for women to get divorced was social death, right? And I said, well, what do they call a man? And she slapped my knee and throws her head backwards and is laughing. And she goes, they call him a man. Because there's no social consequences. Women bear the burden, right? They call him a man. Like, women bear the consequence for getting divorced, right? And if we think about that in U.S. culture, right? Like, is that how people think of it? Maybe not. It's not perhaps a pervasive thing, but certainly when people go through divorce, right? I've now done this work in the U.S. for 3 years. When women get divorced in this culture, there's a lot of them that think I've failed, right? My marriage failed. I failed my family. Right?
There's a lot of, emotional guilt that's there. And I think that just comes also, and I could be wrong, but I feel like it comes with the nurturing aspect that females have inherently embodied in their genetics. And more so than the average guy, I think that I mean, like, not to say that they don't have it, but it's kind of like, I just feel like by default, we have it and we're expected to have it if we don't have it, you know? Like
I think, like maybe like we could have a whole different discussion of, right, if is it nature or right, there's trans people in my family, like we can have a whole sociological, biological, medical conversation about, like, are women more nurturing than men? I think chicken or egg, like, where does it come from? Is it socialized or is it biological? I don't know, and I don't know that I'm particularly interested in caring. What I do know is women pay a higher price socially if their family falls apart.
I 100% agree with you on that. 100%. I mean, I come, you know, we're from India, like my family's from India. And while I was born and raised in the States, we still hold on to our cultural values. And a lot of those values embody that at the end of the day. Like, you know, even if you go to India, now India is far more progressive than it ever was before. But even then, you know, getting that is still considered a taboo, or even mental health can be considered a taboo, which is really sad, actually, at the end of the day. It's sad to know that, because now there's more and more people talking about it. Now, because of social media and influencers and other people, they're like, no, we're going to be bold and we're going to be brave and we're going to say it's okay. We're going to make it normal and not make it like you're some, you know, somebody who's an untouchable or something that shouldn't be part of society anymore.
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LawChat. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LawChat.
And now back to our awesome conversation.
So tell me, while you were, I feel like you've really just kind of grazed over all your experience. You've done so much. And in all of the things that you've done, and after that you got your PhD as well, what were some of the most challenging, or a couple of the most challenging moments that you had while, through that journey before you started your own consulting business?
Yeah. So I started my first consulting business when I was 24. And so I went to grad school. I went to grad school 5 years after I had started my first company. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. 3 of my 4 uncles are entrepreneurs. A couple of them have, sold $1 million companies. I just sold my first company over the summer. It was like a very
gosh, congratulations.
It was a landmark moment that I knew I would have.
Absolutely.
Would happen sometime. Yeah, but yeah. I sold my share in a legal startup, and I was just like, oh my God, it happened. I can't believe it. I knew this would happen one day, and I did.
Oh, wow. That's excellent.
So I've been an entrepreneur for 14 years. What were some of the biggest challenges? I think at the beginning of entrepreneurial journeys, my partner's about to have is like a big landmark moment where he's leaving his 9-to-5 to start full-time his foundation. So I think like that's a big challenge moment, is like that jumping off point of, when am I going to be done working for someone else and do my own thing, right? And I think that that's a pretty universal thing for entrepreneurs is, especially if you have kids, right? We have a household that includes a 6-year-old. There's a kind of like, how do I keep a roof over our head and food on the table and all of that stuff. I think that was the biggest scary thing for me along the way. And I made that jump, I think, for the last time. I'd gone in-house to be a divorce coach with an incredible family law practice that I had helped start up, Christy Zlatkis's Z Family Law in Rockville, Maryland. I'd gotten the opportunity to consult there when Christy was first starting the firm, and then went in-house as a divorce coach, as Maryland and DC's first in-house divorce coach. And in the midst of the pandemic, really realized that I couldn't parent the way that my kid needed to be parented. Right. And have a traditional job. And I was, well, okay, I've been an entrepreneur at that point for 13 years. I have a pretty robust skill set. I've got a lot of letters after my name. There's 8 of them. There's no reason I can't do this, other than all of the stories that I've told myself, which are, this is dangerous, it's risky, there's no stability, how are you going to get health insurance, right? And like, we have a lot of narratives in society about what responsibility looks like. Well, you get a good, stable job, right? And it's like, well, who creates those jobs? Companies. In DC, it's also the government, right? But yeah. but we see what that instability looks like, right? The pandemic has really brought clarity to the fact that a lot of companies aren't super stable, right? And with all, I think I've lived in DC for 19 years in this area. Like, there's so many government shutdowns and stuff. I have tons of friends that get furloughed, government contractors that never end up getting paid. And so I think the biggest challenge and the biggest thing that I teach entrepreneurs, because I'm almost primarily an executive coach now, although I'm just thinking of my current client roster, 3 of them are transcending marital conflict at the moment. They've moved from in our coaching, I don't want to take credit for it, right? But so much of my coaching deals with interpersonal conflict that arises around entrepreneurship. And I've had 3 different current clients gone from a place of being on the brink of divorce to a place of like, good sex, family finances are working, I respect and communicate well, right? Because they're no longer struggling with, oh my God, if my company doesn't work, I've let my family down. I've all of this different stuff. So I think that's probably like the biggest challenge that I overcame was just the fear of, is it time to leave my 9-to-5? Am I crazy for doing that? And then for moms, like, I had a very big narrative, which was, I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad mom if I leave my stable job. But I think the upside, oh precious entrepreneurs listening to this, right? My annual salary was $50,000 in 2020. My January sales, as of 4 days ago, was $50,495.
Oh
Right.
my goodness, that's amazing.
And so the lifestyle that I can give my child, right, is very different. And because I'm an entrepreneur and I wanted to weatherproof my family's finances as I made that jump, I downsized us. I took us out of an expensive apartment in Capitol Hill. I took a lot of savings out and I bought a small yacht in cash, and we live on a yacht and we have no mortgage. And I bought my Audi in cash, right? And like, we have a reasonable family car and a home and no mortgage, right? Our monthly expenses are a $400 slip fee and insurance, right? And like, so if I make 0 sales in a month, I've got 3 months of savings. Like there's never a moment in my entrepreneurial journey now where I'm on the phone with a potential client being like, I have to have this sale or else I can't pay for groceries.
Right. That's
And I think
that's so much freedom
yeah.
and so much financial freedom in that moment also. And I think just, before I rewind a little bit with you, but like just having that, we think financial freedom to be, we're working for ourselves. We have freedom in our time. We can create a schedule that we like. We can go to work or not go to work, do this, do that. We have the choice. But I think financial freedom is not just having the choice to do what you want, but also having the lack of stress when you don't have what you want, but knowing that you're in a good space. But let's talk a little bit about that mindset that helped you shift. How did you shift that mindset? How did you overcome those challenges? And is there anything in the past experiences and, all the, going to Bali, going to Russia, going to all these places, how has that impacted how you work today?
Yeah. I think it impacted me a lot. And I should say I did a major research project in Cambodia as well. So how are these things intertwined? You ask. There's a part of me that there's a rote answer, right? Which is like, I did a bunch of mindset work and I like really got in touch with my inner self-confidence and Right? The reality was I studied abroad in all of these places. I met a lot of different people from all around the world. I had a lot of my Judeo-Christian upbringing beliefs challenged, and I had a spiritual awakening. And I started being mentored by shamanic healers and Akashic record healers, and figured out that I was able to access the Akashic records and work on a spiritual level with clients. And that shifted everything for me, everything. And so the way that I had the mindset shifts was I do EFT, emotional frequency tapping, where for some people, it's known a lot now as just tapping, but it's a modality used in psychology and spirituality to move feelings through the body. So every morning, I say a little prayer and I journal out what my purpose is. I write, I help clients come home to themselves. I help people recover from trauma. I help people find a sense of purpose in their life. My work is important. And then I tap through all of my limiting beliefs. I'm like, I don't deserve to make a sale today because my laundry is not folded, right? Like all of the crazy things that I tell myself, I process them right there. And instead of telling myself, well, that's crazy, you can make a sale even though your laundry is not folded, right? There's a part of me that believes that that's not true. Right? My house has to look perfect before I can be good, because if I'm an executive coach and I tell people how to get their crap together, my crap has to be perfect, right? Like that's a real story a lot of entrepreneurs tell themselves. And right, like most of us have dirty laundry, metaphorically and literally, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I meditate every morning for 10 minutes. I make a cup of coffee and I sit and I meditate and I just try to focus. I close my eyes and literally just try to kind of like envision looking at my third eye. And then I journal out how I want to impact my clients and my work changes the world and blah, blah, blah. And then I take 10 minutes and I tap through all my limiting beliefs. And then I just do whatever feels good. I'm like, I want to go for a walk. That feels good. And I'll end up meeting somebody that turns into somebody that refers a client, right? Or I'm going to fold my laundry, or my kid is having a meltdown and I'm going to take them to get ice cream in the middle of the day just because, and I think that there's a real narrative in our culture, which is if you want to make a ton of money, you have to work really, really, really hard. But the biggest mindset shift for me was recognizing that what we make and what we make financially, who we hold ourselves accountable to be, is a reflection of the people we surround ourselves with, right?
Can you say that one more time? What we
Sure.
make.
How humans are programmed to be pack animals, right? If we are not part of the pack, we will die, right? Because saber-toothed tigers will get us,
right,
and woolly mammoths will eat our babies, and it's the worst, right? So on a biological level, we are programmed to fit in, because to not fit in, literally on our like primordial brain, is to die. And so when most people are thinking about entrepreneurship and personal development, I just have to get over the need, right? No, it's a biological need. And if you try to fight it, you're going to spend a lot of time wasting it. So you might as well use it to your advantage. So most people, right? Most of their friends make, let's say me, right? Like me 2 years ago, most of my friends made between $50,000 and $70,000. A couple of them made way more. A couple of them made a little bit less. Most of them made between $50,000 and $70,000. My brain, my subconscious primordial, don't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger brain said, it's normal to make $50,000. That's a really good salary. That sounds really good. That sounds really good. That sounds really good. When I decided I want to have ridiculous amounts of wealth, I want to pay for my kid to go to grad school in Zurich if he wants to. I want to not have a mortgage. I want to get to take my kid to Europe for the summer and screw around in France just because. When I made that decision that that was the kind of freedom I wanted to have in my life, I drew out a Venn diagram, again, nerd, 4 circles: wealthy, happy, kind, generous. And I said, I want to meet 5 friends that sit at the intersection of this.
Oh,
I want to expand my social circle so that the 5 people I spend the most time listening to, hearing from, thinking about, being encouraged by, wealthy, generous, happy, kind, right? And I deliberately set out to make those friends and to meet those coaches. And so now my subconscious mind thinks it's super normal. Like my coach last month, January, in January 2020, she sold $2,500 of coaching services. That's not a terrible thing for a newbie coach. $2,500, I paid my bills. That's great. I feel really good about this. Last January, so 4 days ago, 12 months apart, she made $939,000 as a solo entrepreneur, right? She made almost $1 million in sales. And the difference was she decided that she was going to make that her normal, right? And this is the woman who I spend most of my time listening to, right? If I'm driving in the car, I've got one of her training videos on. If like my partner and I will watch popcorn at night sometime and be like, I'm going to turn on an Emma video, right? Because I want my subconscious brain to think that it's normal and safe to make $1 million in a month.
You have just explained the whole, you are the 5 friends you surround yourselves with. Like you've just explained the science behind that.
Yes.
People say that all day long and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But you have just explained the science behind it. And I love that. Thank you. That was so fascinating. And that was super enlightening to me. And I'm just kind of like, and I get it. I mean, I totally agree with you. It's something that I grew up where my parents always said that to me, to surround yourself with the people that you would want to be like, not in a way where you're trying to like mimic them or you're coveting them or whatever, but there you look up to them. It's like what your goals are, how you want to be in life. So thank you. I love that.
You are most welcome. And I think a lot of us in personal development, right? And if you're an entrepreneur, you're either working on your personal development or your business is not doing well. You're either growing or shrinking. It's that simple. You're either stretching your capacity to be a leader or you're not growing, right? And I don't mean by growing, I don't mean you're not scaling your company. If you decide that your company, you want to make $500,000 in revenue and you only want to have 2 employees because you don't want the managerial standpoint, like whatever. My dream, I hope the footprints that I leave on this planet, if I teach nobody anything other than this, it's do what you freaking want to do and stop talking yourself out of what you want to have.
Right.
So if what you want to have is a solo law firm and you have a virtual assistant in Peoria that you've never met in person, but you feel really good because you only work 22 hours a week and you get to take your kid fishing every night at 4:00, do that. Right? but make that decision intentionally from a place of being in tune with what you want, not from a place of, I don't know how to get clients and I'm not willing to spend money to hire a coach to teach me how to do that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's how you are implementing with executives now. That's how you're teaching executives, and your company that you're an entrepreneur of now, and the founder of your company. What is the name of that company?
Yeah, sure. It's just Dr. Liz Dubois Coaching.
Oh,
very,
I thought,
very simple.
Well, that is very simple. But then I guess maybe the technique of the emotional and spiritual side of it, there's special, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. So EFT. So EFT is a at this point, fairly common technique used in a lot of modalities. EMDR, which is eye movement rapid desensitization, it was a technique that became really common in psychology practices related to trauma recovery. It's a reprogramming of the subconscious mind. What I do, EMDR, you need a practitioner to help you. You have to have another person with you doing it. That is the person facilitating it. They're literally moving. It's somewhat like hypnosis. My goal is to give everybody, to wake people up to the fact that they already have everything inside of them that they need to succeed. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but if you have the dream, right? If you have the dream to be an entrepreneur.
This is not cheesy at all. This is my vibe.
Okay, great. Right? Everything you need is inside of you. So if you have a dream to open a gluten-free bakery because your baby kid girl goes to birthday parties and you have to see her cry every time because she feels left out because she doesn't get a cupcake, and you decide, I want to open a gluten-free cupcake bakery. That is my dream. That is my desire. My goal as a coach is to help you realize that you already have all of the tools inside of you, because if you have the desire to have it, the universe is going to match you with every single resource you need, right? But what happens is we often walk around the world, especially women, we've been socialized to believe that we need other people's buy-in, right? And so we go to our mom and we go to our friend and we go to our hairdresser and we go to our financial accountant and we go to all these people and we say, am I allowed to have this dream? Does this dream make sense? And my goal is for people to be like, it's my mind. Right? And so the reason I use EFT is I can teach people how to do it. You can do EFT in the shower by yourself, right? You can't do EMDR without my help. You can do EFT every morning. You can meditate every morning. You can develop a spiritual practice. Even if you're an atheist, you can decide there's probably something bigger than me. I don't need to know what it is, but I can sit quietly for 10 minutes and let my brain not think about all of the things that I'm worried that I don't have the ability to do.
So when you're thinking about all this and you have, you feel the challenges, you feel the limiting beliefs sometimes creep in, not sometimes, a lot of times they creep in.
Every morning.
Even if you're strong, you can be strong here and here, the limiting beliefs still creep in because they want to. What is your anchor at that time? And I feel like I already know your answer, but I'm going to ask you because I feel like everybody, and I always ask this of every guest of mine, what's your anchor when you just feel very defeated?
Oh gosh. I mean, I want to talk about my technique and my anchor. My technique is to not talk myself out of the limiting belief. I think a lot of high performance culture, I'm saying that intentionally, right? There's a culture around wake up at 4 a.m, do your journaling, do your meditation, then run for an hour. And then like, blah, 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 you've already done all this stuff by 7 a.m. The rest of the world is just waking up and you've already achieved, right? Like I wake up at 9:30 most mornings. I made 50 grand last month, right? Like, it's not 50 million, but it's, my entire annual salary from the year before in 1 month. I wake up at 9:30. I go to bed at 10 o'clock. We watch Netflix from time to time, right? Like I had Chinese takeout for lunch at 11 a.m., right? Like whatever, right? Like for me, what I stay grounded. My technique is first and foremost to just say, oh, hey, limiting belief, you're back. Isn't that cute? Right? And I don't talk myself out of it. I don't expend any energy being like, I shouldn't believe this. I've already worked through this, which is why I tap every morning. And I don't even listen to the limiting beliefs that happen, right? So the first part of tapping is you talk through all the stuff that your monkey mind is saying, and then you shift into what you want to program instead. I don't even listen anymore. I just let it come out. And like the other day I was tapping in the morning, and what I kind of like tuned in to listen for a second. And it was like, I deserve to be treated like shit. I deserve to be unhappy. And I was like, oh, there's some childhood trauma still hanging out down there. Who would have thought? Right. And I just don't talk myself out of it. And so when I'm trying to get rooted and moored back in, right, like what I take a lot of peace and comfort in knowing that this incarnation, this moment, like I don't have to get it right. Like there's no there to get to. It's just about, am I living as the person I decided I wanted to be when I came here? And oftentimes I will envision like my higher self kind of like scooping me up. We have a bearded dragon, Fred, who's a girl. She likes to hang out on my, I'm typing sometimes. And when I'm really, really feeling unmoored and I'm in a place of, I'm not doing this right, I'm messing it up, this client isn't having the success that I thought I could help them have, right? Like all of the negative chatter, right? I'm not a good mom because fill in any number of reasons we tell ourselves, right? I picture myself being scooped up like this little Fred and like hanging out on my higher self's shoulder and just being like, you're okay, Liz. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's
about
not that serious.
Envisioning what you see yourself as, envisioning the comfort, the achievements. And I think that's just so beautiful and so empowering also to give yourself grace in the journey and allow yourself space to just not be okay and be tired or, just be like, I need to stop. I need to not do this right now. Yeah. So I just love that.
Well, I'll also say, right, like I have 8 letters behind my name. I'm an executive coach. I have 2 current clients that are in the 7-figure mark. Most of my clients are 6-figure entrepreneurs, right? I've achieved a lot of success. And I also have 2 coaches that I work with every single week. And I have a shamanic healer that I work with once a month, right? Like, hear me, people of the internet listening to this, like I am a work in progress, right? And I take that really seriously. I have people in my life where I can just be like, I have a group coaching thread with 2 of my close friends that are the 2 women that coach me, right? And all day long, I'm just like, I just did this stupid thing and I can't even believe it. And I feel like crap about myself. Somebody help, right? I had some headshots taken the other day I'm so in love with, right? But like I gained some weight during the pandemic. I'm a little chunky, right? Like I like had this like 30-minute just like crying fest of like, I look so fat. I don't know what to do, right? And like, I don't sit in that by myself. I have elite, highly paid professionals that helped me shift that mindset, right? And they were like, go on Instagram and follow a bunch of plus size models, right? And like, I don't figure it out by myself. I have highly trained, highly compensated professionals.
I completely 110% agree with you. I have a coach. I have a mastermind group I'm part of, and actually I'm part of 2 different groups. And I think it's so essential to find a community that is aligned with your thinking and your vision and your goals. And it's not just me, like my anchors, I have anchors too. And I think you need all of that to create the world that you want to live in, or, your world, not anybody else's, but your world. Yeah. And I think that's so true. And we actually talked about Oprah before we started this. And even Oprah has said that I have lots of coaches. I don't have just one coach, but she has a coach for like all these different things. Yeah. And I think it's something that we don't give enough. You find a coach, do research, make sure that coach is for you and fits whatever you want. And it's aligned with your purpose and, again, your goals. And also if they have the caliber to do what they're saying that they're doing. But yeah, I think coaches are so important. It helps you, grounds you, helps you get vision also, and a plan of action sometimes. And so, I just love that. And so more power to you and for all the joy and blessings that you're spreading around you. But tell me, I know that you've had, through all the ups and downs and then starting your businesses and the entrepreneurship, I'm sure you've, encountered some legal things in your life. So what is like one thing that you're like, oh gosh, I wish I'd known this before, or man, this was like, I just got blindsided by all this. If you've had any. Yeah.
I don't know that I've gotten blindsided. Like, where is some wood I can knock on? I don't know that I've gotten blindsided by anything. I'm trying to think. The one legal thing where I've been really lucky, right?
Yeah.
Is the honest truth. Like, I've been really lucky. I'm extremely selective about the students that I work with. I only take on 12 students a financial quarter. And it's because if you're working with me, you're doing a lot of really intense work, right? And I'm on messenger support with you frequently, multiple times a day, right? And one of the many great things about that, I guess is the better way to say it, I don't run into a lot of challenges, because if my gut instinct says this is not a client I'm going to enjoy working with 3 months from now, right? Because 3 months from now, I like, there's some part of me that's like, I don't know, right? I listen to that, right? And because I've set my life up financially where if I make no sales for 3 months, we still get to go out to dinner every Friday, right? And like, if I make no sales for 6 months, we're going to have a lot of ramen, but we'll be okay, right? Like, because I bought my home outright. I bought my car outright. Like, we're set up in a way that entrepreneurship is not a burden in our household. It's a blessing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I will say the one legal thing where I was like, I need to look into this, was as my spiritual gifts were coming in, right? And I was going from a person that had spiritual practices to a person that used spirituality as a key component in her coaching. And I was like, kind of got like this mediumship thing happening. I don't know what's going on here, right? And I was like being mentored by shamanic healers and intuitive healers and other people that worked in the Akashic Records. I had a consultation with a mutual friend of ours with a custody attorney. And I was like, so I don't think I'm crazy. Gonna have a psych eval just in case, right? And I did. I was like, am I crazy, right? Like this is what's happening. And they're like, no, we can't explain God to you, but we can tell you you're not a schizophrenic. And she's like, okay, that's fine. Close enough, right? But I had an evaluation with a custody attorney because I was like, is this grounds for a mental health custody lawsuit, right? And I'm really grateful to say, like, my son's dad, my ex-husband, has been nothing but supportive as I've scaled my company, as his partner, who's a psychologist. And so I think for me, the key takeaway that I hope you get, people listening to this, is that if you are scared about a thing, don't talk yourself out of it. Do the work to figure out how to not be afraid of it anymore.
I love that. That is so my thing. I tackle my fears head on.
Yeah.
Because the only way you can get over it. You just cannot get over it by running away from it. It's always going to be chasing you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was, again, another whoosh moment. So
yeah,
I've had so much fun talking to you today. I feel like I just need to have another session with you, just to have another conversation with you.
You're most welcome.
It was so nice. There's so much, I feel like there's so many layers to you and how much information you're sharing. And I definitely do want to connect with you again. But before we call it a day, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite book, or personal fiction, self-healing, whatever book? What is something that you would suggest to somebody?
You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero.
Okay.
Everyone needs to go read You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. If you would like to tattoo it on your brain, that's fine, or your arm, that's great. Print it out and put it on your bathroom as wallpaper so you're reminded of it every morning. Do that. Okay, so go read You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Favorite book to read. If it's the holidays, go get you David Sedaris, Holidays on Ice. And you just, it's a family tradition as we listen to that in the car on audible.com.
Oh,
it's
nice.
very sardonic. It has nothing to do with personal development, everything to do with
sometimes you just
elves
need
that
that.
Macy's getting drunk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna actually link all of those to the show notes as well.
Yeah, and I'll also say couple of people to follow online. Yeah. Brendan Burchard is one of Oprah's coaches. I got to see him live last year, 2 years ago. It was amazing. So follow Brendan Burchard. Emma Burgess is a coach on Facebook. She is my coach. She made $1.7 million last year as a solo entrepreneur, 2 years into her business. Go follow Emma Burgess. Follow Paloma Lev. She's a high ticket sales coach. She taught me a lot of what I know. You can follow me. I'm just Soul Dr. Liz, Dr. Liz.
Yes. How do we connect with you? Tell me.
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram, which is just Soul Dr. Liz, SOUL.DR.Liz, LIZ. And then drlizdubois.com, DRLIZDUBOIS.com. And then I feel like I want to leave a couple of last tidbits. I think when people get really overwhelmed in entrepreneurship, they tend to think that the solution is to work a lot harder and to figure it out. And what I see consistently with people making 6 and 7 figures easily, right? Not burning the candle at all ends, they've never seen their child, right? Like the way to hide $100 from them is to stick it on their kid's forehead. No, I'm talking people that have genuine work-life balance, that binge all of Bridgerton in 2 nights because right. Oh my God, I so over-identified with the character. It was really uncomfortable. I couldn't handle it. But anyway, this is the struggle of being an empath and watching television.
Next level.
Right. But the people that I surround myself, it's normal to make millions of dollars, and it's normal to be able to sleep in until 9:30 in the morning and binge Netflix when they come out with a ridiculous English romance dramedy, right? I think for those of you that are listening to this and you're in the entrepreneurial cluster F personal development world that says you have to wake up at 4 a.m, you have to be a marathon runner, you have to not eat any carbs, you have to listen to personal development podcasts 24/7, you're not allowed to take personal time unless it's to go to a conference on personal development. I promise you, the most important thing in your life is not making your company succeed. It's finding a way to have peace with yourself and be happy. Because if you can do those things, your company will succeed.
I completely agree with you. It's a whole package. It's not just one little peel of that onion.
Yeah.
Completely agree with you. Thank you for your words of wisdom. They have really touched me, I know for a fact, and really inspired me. And I'm pretty sure they were inspiring all the listeners out there as well. I truly appreciated you coming and taking time out and being a part of this Law Chat.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. No, and if I can just, I'm the last thing.
Yes.
We started with me saying I'm very happy, and you saying that's so unusual.
It's refreshing. Yeah, people don't say it. Yeah.
What I want you, Girija, and you people listening, if you cannot answer without even thinking, that's my answer. It's a good day to live on a boat. I'm very happy. There's no thought to it because it's just true. If that's not your answer, not the yacht part, you don't have to buy it.
Right.
But if your answer is not instinctually gut level, I'm very happy, give yourself permission to burn down what's in your life that's not making you happy. If you're in a job where you walk in the door and you feel like you want to call in sick, quit your job. If you're in a partnership where you feel belittled and feel like you're walking around on eggshells, leave your partnership. If you are wearing clothes that make you feel gross because they're too small and you gained weight in the pandemic, go get new clothes. Stop making yourself wrong for wanting the things you want. Burn down the bullshit in your life that other people told you had to have in order to be worthy, and run at your dreams headlong.
Love it. So powerful. So powerful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girija. I love these kind of stories and conversations where we can be real, honest, and open, and having fun at the same time. I hope you are inspired and motivated to keep doing the amazing work you are doing. If this is something that gave you all those feels and then some, truly motivated and inspired for you, you can show your love in all or one of these ways. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your community and tell them about it, or share with somebody that can benefit from it. I look forward to seeing you next time on another episode of Law Chat, and until then, keep moving forward. Bye.